And everybody, we are in day 10 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, with many around the world questioning the motives and the mindset of Russian leader Vladimir Putin. And joining us now to provide some insight is retired U.S. Navy captain and the first Soviet-born officer to be commissioned in the U.S. Armed Forces, Yuri Tabach. Captain, I have to ask you, because we're just getting some details here, that in the last few minutes or so, that Vladimir Putin is issuing some really stark warnings, saying that any third party who tries to declare a no-fly zone over Ukraine will be considered a part of the armed conflict, basically saying butt out to the rest of the world, and if anybody tries to interfere, and also going so far also to say that some of these sanctions are also basically bringing the other parties in. Is this all rhetoric, or is there more to it?
Well, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist, I don't know, but my mother was a psychiatrist, and supposedly she was not a very bad one. She was a pretty good one. And she said that a few years ago, when during the Victory Day parade over fascist Germany, as the Russians would say, they actually built a cardboard Reichstag, and Russian troops attacked it, and then the Minister of Defense surrendered it to Putin. And he lives in this, my mother said, he lives in this fantasy land, and he's a paranoid psychopath. And it was a while ago. And so he lives in this world where he's fighting Nazis and he's winning. And he says he's fighting Nazis in Ukraine, although the president of Ukraine is Jewish. But still, meanwhile, he's sitting in a bunker far away from everyone else, afraid of anything, using cluster bombs, using vacuum bombs, something that is illegal by Geneva Convention to use it in, and we're seeing the destruction he's causing on a civilian population, and threatening and blackmailing like a KGB thug supposed to do, saying no fly zone if you do that, do not give weapons to Ukraine to create no fly zones for them, safety, no sanctions, everything is a war, it's a World War III. But so I don't question his mental state. Clearly, he has lost it, or lost it a while ago. I'm questioning the mental state of our leadership, to be honest with you. I mean, as far as I know we continue to buy oil from Russia as of today, and the rhetoric is very strong, but the action is very little. We're not giving even Ukrainians the tools to fight off the Russians. How long will they be able to withstand with all the bravery and sacrifice that the Ukrainian people are making today? It's about time that I would say that we engage. And if we don't engage, we're still afraid that this is going to be a World War III. I mean, his tanks are firing on nuclear reactors. I know there is, I think on CNN or somewhere, they pulled out some physicist that says, no, even if an airplane is going to crash into those reactors, they're protected. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm not a physicist, but the whole mental idea that firing from the tanks on a nuclear sites is crazy. I think he's pointing out that he's not going to be afraid to push the button and to cause a nuclear disaster one way or another, because these people who are as sick as Hitler or Stalin, the more we give in to them, the more we show that we fear them, the more they feel like they can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, it's frightening.
They will never accept humiliation in their own head, humiliation or belittling or defeat. They will go into the extent where, and Putin said, he is Russia, and if there is no Russia, what's the point of having the world? He said that a long time ago, when he's saying that he's not going to let it go. So I think that I'm afraid to say that Senator Lindsey Graham was right.
Right, and of course, he is the one who said calling for some sort of assassination of him. And of course, that's come under a lot of controversy, too, as well. Captain, thank you for your insights. And it is really frightening to see where this man is going. And of course,
please help Ukraine. Glory to Ukrainian fighters. Glory to Ukrainian president. And these people are here fighting to death. I'm proud to be part of Ukraine at this moment.
Yeah, it is extraordinary to see, and the whole world is watching them and rooting for them. Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
really
Thank you,
appreciate your
Newsmax.
words. Thank you.